Hello, and welcome to another episode of the AgNext Podcast, where we are always excited to tell you what is next from AgNext. Today we'll be speaking with Dr. Bianca da Costa, a research scientist at AgNext. Let's get into it. Welcome, Bianca. We are very excited to have you in our podcast today. Please take a second to introduce yourself, where you're from, and what is your role in the AgNext team.
Okay, thank you very much for inviting me. So I'm currently a research scientist here at AgNext. I started as a postdoc back in May. I work in dairy sustainability topics, and I'm from Brazil. I was born in São Paulo, a huge city. And when I was, I grew up in that huge city, always in love with animals and nature. I was always drawn to like farms and the farm environment, even though we had like nothing like that where I was born, in the area where I was born. But I always loved to be next to nature. And then that's how I end up very interested in pursuing education in animals and nature and so on.
That's wonderful.
That's it.
Tell us about your educational path and how, coming from Sao Paulo, how did you get here?
So that's a long journey. So I studied veterinary medicine in São Paulo. I thought I would work with dogs and cats. And then at the university, I got in contact with the farming environment and farm animals and the farming world, which I was always drawn as a kid to the farm countryside. So then I decided to actually pursue more studies into animal behavior, farm animal behavior and animal welfare. And then I was very much interested into human and animal welfare, like putting it together, getting those connections. So I did several internships and trainings on animal handling and animal welfare. Then I went to Europe. I did internships in Canada. And then I decided to actually pursue a master's in sustainability. After all the trainings that I did, I was like, okay, actually, I want to really go more in deep into, because like as a veterinarian, sometimes like we are very much focused on animal health and the health of animals. And sometimes we lose the perspective of the whole farm, right? And I was missing that link. So I tried, I want to pursue education that would give me more information about that. So I decided to go to Germany to do a master's in sustainable agriculture. And then there, I kind of went very much away from animals. I studied about animals as well, but also as a farm as a whole. So cropping science, soil science, and it was very interesting. It really opened my mind about what is really farming, and also the social economics, like how politics and social economics and culture, how all of them actually play a role in farming around the world. But even like that, I still, my master thesis was on dairy, on welfare of dairy calves. I was always drawn to the dairy calves. And then, so when I finished my master's there in Germany with all this experience with sustainability and getting into more deeper into calf management, I came to the US to do my PhD here in animal science at the University of Minnesota. And there I was working on different hearing practices or different hearing options, calf hearing options for dairy farms. So we looked into different social housing systems for dairy calves. I also went to farms and asked farmers about their practices with dairy calves, much focus on organic farmers and pasture-based farmers. Then now finishing, I am very glad that I came here to AgNext, because this is kind of a dream. It's a research group that is focused on sustainability, and you're not focused on one part of sustainability, but you see sustainability as a whole as like the social, economic, and the environmental part of sustainability. And I was very drawn to this group. It is in Colorado, of course. It is beautiful here, but the group is very great, and the advances that AgNext has done in the past few years is just amazing. So yeah, that's a great place to be.
Awesome.
That's pretty exciting. Such a diverse background, right? You grew up in a big city, you went to Europe, you came to the US. You mentioned when you started getting interested to the sustainability and into the dairy systems, the welfare thing has been a big part of your journey as well, right? And so now you joined the team. You already mentioned but besides this everything that you mentioned, what drew you to come to AgNext, and how do you think you're going to use this background that you just mentioned? What are your expectations? What do you want to bring to the team with this such diverse background?
Well, yeah. So I think what very much draw me to the team and to work with Dr. Diego Manriquez. He is working with dairy calves with improved calf handling and calf management on dairy farms. The work here is very much applied. So we work with farmers. We are solving practical real problems. So we talk to farmers and we want to solve the problems that they are having. I think that's something I really love about the work here. And that it's for example, with the dairy team, we are working with the human aspect in farms as well. So the human aspect of welfare in farms. So we are looking into there are projects with worker safety, training of workers, and I think that's very awesome that Dr. Diego has this approach to his research. His research is very diverse, and I think we kind of connected in that sense because he saw that I was very diverse in my background as well, and he is very diverse. So I think I saw here possibilities for us to actually develop different things, and we don't need to be focused on just one thing, but we can actually have maybe an umbrella of possibilities, and the group is very open to that. So I think that's something really amazing. And what I think I can bring here with my background is just collaborate with all the perspectives that I had in the past, my experience in dairy systems across the world, and bringing this perspective of having a study in different continents and having being in contact with farmers from different places. I think this gives me a really maybe strong background to come here and keep working, then applying my knowledge, everything that I learned before, working with farmers to solve their problems.
Awesome.
That's cool.
Yeah. I love the diverse perspective that both you and Diego have. And it's so unique in academia, right? Where historically and traditionally, even now, we see academics who specialize in one thing. And they get very, very good at that one thing. And yet you and Diego in your dairy systems work really stretch across the breadth of the system and working with producers. So you mentioned the worker safety work that you're doing. I know that you're also doing work in modeling with the ruminant farm systems model. I know that you guys also work in thermal stress, both cold and heat stress, with calves and developing heifers, correct? And you guys do work in microbiome and health. Which one tell us in detail what you're doing in just one of those projects, the one that comes to you right now. Just help our listeners understand the day in the research life of Bianca using one of those research projects.
Oh, it's kind of hard because every day we do different things. But let me say right now, we are very much involved right now with the thermostress, I guess, so maybe I will focus on that.
Let's talk about that.
Dr. Diego has been developing research on thermostress. We are now writing grants to actually keep
What
studying.
is thermal stress? Start at the beginning.
Okay, so thermostress would be a condition where you are not physiologically able to deal with maybe the environmental conditions that are around a person or an animal. So for example, if it's too hot or if it is too cold, so then you start struggling physiologically to adapt. You cannot just, so your thermoregulation strategies start struggling. So then for animals, it might be, so those animals are losing energy, like they are wasting their energy that they could be using it for maybe reproduction or for growth. Or even for their immune system, they are actually using their energy for trying to just regulate their temperature, and it can affect their health. very much in their performance. So the research is very much into actually looking into the physiological effects of thermal stress, both cold and heat stress. I have a project with the engineering school, which actually is developing a new hutch that would be more efficient in terms of the thermodynamics of this hutch. So we partner with engineering students. And I think that's one of my favorite parts, because we are actually putting people with different backgrounds and different knowledge and different expertise together to solve a real problem. And I think it's really awesome to do that. So these students are we are in the second year of this project. We are developing a hutch that would improve calf comfort. It has to be functional on a farm.
Yes.
And has to be easy to be produced as well. So the students are working on that, and this is really, really awesome. So I'm helping those students, helping with data analysis, writing papers. That's more or less how the life is. Sometimes we go to farms and come back. So I love that. I really love that.
That's good. So great job talking about thermal stress and bringing that to life for our listeners. Can you connect thermal stress to sustainability for our listeners?
For sure.
And then also on top of that, we want to know your definition of sustainability as well.
Okay. So I think let's start with my definition with sustainability. So for me, sustainability is really looking into we can use the resources that we are using today in a way that those resources can still be used in the future, right? So for me, it's very much into using our ecosystems or our natural resources in a way that we are able to use them in our favor, but in a way that they can be preserved so they can be there in the future. It's good for them, labor conditions, labor safety, so worker safety, that farmers, for example, in our case that we are into agriculture, so that farmers have the economic returns that they need to have, because this is something that we need to balance, that they're doing it for a living, right? And that at the same time, we have our natural resources that are preserved, because farmers actually need that. Without preserving soil health, water quality, our air quality, then what we are basically dependent on, which is natural resources to produce food, without that being preserved, then we are going to run into huge issues in the future. And then the next part will be, how do I link that to thermal stress? For calves, they might get sick if it's too hot or too cold, or if the variation of the temperature is the temperature humidity index the variation is really high, so animals may get more sick. So when an animal gets sick, so you are talking about reduction of like the performance, but also maybe you need to use antibiotics. Then you get into the problem of antibiotic stewardship. Like in farms, we want to reduce the need to use antibiotics. So we want to produce healthy animals. So thermal stress has direct link to animal health. And that's what I said before. For example, if an animal is wasting their energy trying to actually regulate with the temperature outside, instead of using all the resources that we're giving them, for example, good nutrition and so on, this animal, instead of using it for growing and developing in a good way, this animal is actually using it to just regulate their temperature. They are struggling to regulate their temperature. It's kind of a waste of resources that we are investing. So I feel that that's how more or less our link is. And for humans as well, like heat stress in humans, so the work that Dr. Diego does with trainings on farms and getting to that part, this is really important, like labor, how people struggle in hot days. Like we struggle on hot days, right, to do things outside. Imagine who is there every day. We have scientific basis to actually recommend practices or inform farmers and managers or how they can better manage the farm and the labor and work shifts and things like that, so that people are also protected from stress caused by environmental conditions.
That ties back to all of your definition of sustainability, right? So you want to take care of the calf, so it's a long-term process to the farm. You want to take care of the employee, so it's a long-term relationship in the farm. And if you take care of the worker, he or she, the potential that this person will be taking care of the animal is even greater, right?
Exactly.
it's pretty cool. You talk about like all of this research and extension piece that you and Diego does, and we had an episode talking about land grant missions. So it's research extension. The other piece is education, right? And one of the things that you and Diego have established recently here at the CSU in the Animal Science Department is the Dairy Science Club. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Can you tell us more about what is this Dairy Science Club, and for students who are listening to us, how can, if they want to get involved with the activities, how can they do that?
Yes, come to the Dairy Science Club. So we just started. This is our first semester of the Dairy Science Club, and the idea came from actually a veterinarian that works as a manager on a dairy farm here in Colorado. He came up to us and say, hey, I would like to connect better with the students at the university. We want to connect with the university. And that's what I think is very, very nice, that we have this direct relationship with people, the industry and farmers. So he came up to us, and then from our conversations with him to how to develop an internship program or something like that, we had the idea of the Dairy Science Club. And the Dairy Science Club, the idea to actually connect students to the industry. So those students, they can actually prepare, they can connect with, so they can network with people in the industry, and they can prepare themselves better. They are better prepared once they leave the university. They know what is out there. They know what the industry is about, what are being the hot topics, and what are the issues, and actually what is the reality of a farm, for example. We want to establish an internship program where people go there and they see what is the reality of actually a farm once you want to work in the dairy industry, And even if you are selling a product, you need to know your customer or your client. You need to know their reality, their struggles when you're developing a product. So the idea is that those students, they are well prepared for what the industry needs. Right now, we are having meetings every 2 weeks. Tomorrow we are organizing farm visits. So tomorrow we have a farm visit happening. And it's very exciting because the students can get and see what is the reality of a dairy farm. Some of them have never been on a farm, and they are just exploring their opportunities or their career options. And the idea is that we can draw more students interested in the dairy sector and get them well prepared.
I love the connection for students and that they're getting to interact, but also you're bringing industry partners in to speak with them. So I think important for students that are listening, and then also our stakeholders who might be listening. And if stakeholders have interest in coming to speak to these students or even hosting the students, we would love to hear from them as well. So if you are a stakeholder listening, reach out to Bianca or Diego. If you are a student listening, look for the updates on AgNext social channels, Animal Science social channels, and then there's flyers all around the building as well that can direct them to the Dairy Science Club.
Yes.
Yeah, so fun. So Bianca, I'm curious about mentorship and how it's played a role in your career so far. So really unique. I hope we have students listening, just because I think it's so neat that you came from a large city, didn't have a direct connection to agriculture, and yet you're doing some just incredibly impactful work that's also really practical and hands-on. So how has mentorship influenced you? And then how do you pass that along to students?
So mentorship, I think, is one of the biggest parts of my education, what happened to me in the past. So for me, I was very much inspired by Professor Matheus da Costa, Unesp Jaboticabal. Unfortunately, he left us this year, but he was a great researcher that was very hands-on. And I think that part of me to do like boots on the ground work, I got that from Dr. Matheus. Like, he gave me that. There's people that they mentor. There are people that are just advisors, but there are people that are mentors. And when they are mentors, they can understand who you are, and they help you to develop your potentials, let's say. And I am very grateful because I got many people in my life that were great mentors, and I learned a lot from them. So I think what we what I learn and what I try to, when I deal with students, is to always, okay, let me try to listen to you and what are your needs, what is going on with you, and what are your goals for your life. So I try to actually help them see the opportunities that they have in their lives as well, that sometimes we just see one path and there's just this, and things are not working. Oh my God, everything is done. But no, there's so many opportunities out there, so many things and so many good people. And to always see things, put your heart on things and use your human side. We don't have to just use our rational side, but also our human side, because we are dealing with people. And when we deal with animals and we deal with people. So I think that's something that I try to kind of pass along.
Wonderful. I love that. Thank you for coming and being a part of our podcast. Thank you to all of our listeners for joining us on another episode of our AgNext podcast. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram. If you have comments, suggestions, or feedback that you would like to give us, please send us an email to agnext.colostate.edu, and we'll do our best to answer you as soon as we can. Thanks again for joining.